April 11 movies.
Weezy out of here.
13,000 people watch my March recap. Okay, so I think it's best I explain what these videos are and how they work. These aren't just major releases in the month, though yes, most major releases will be talked about as I usually get an opportunity to see each major release as the weeks go by. These are also any releases I watched on streaming or rental services, so they can be movies from the past that I just didn't catch at the time of their release. To eliminate confusion, these are the theater releases that I didn't see: Alex Garland's Civil War and Boy Kills World. Anyways, April 11 movies, here we go! Rebel Moon Part 2 is the sequel to what I consider one of the worst movies of 2023. Part of me hoped that Zack Snyder, a guy who really does have the genius, I really hoped he was going to show that here. With movies like 300 and Watchmen, he's shown genius with style and grace. And then sometimes he doesn't. But after I'd finished the first Rebel Moon back in December, part of me was hoping, so hoping, the second part cleared everything up. That's why it all didn't make sense. Similar to how Dune 2, which is weirdly still my top film of 2024, was able to make the stuff that didn't add up in the first Dune and make the payoff worth it. Sure, Dune 2 also had the first one to go off of, and this one has fucking died. But I held out hope that Rebel Moon Part 2 would make everything make sense. Nope. I will say it's better than the first film. I mean, that's not much of a standard, but the world, for as bland and forgettable as it is, really does get better as you keep seeing it. The main character is still rather boring though, and damn it, Charlie Hunnam, stop reminding me you were in the Guy Ritchie King Arthur movie! I can't even say Rebel Moon, as a whole, is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. They're just dull and soulless, with no effort or passion put. It feels like Snyder throwing a hissy fit that he couldn't make his Star Wars movie. Boo-hoo! Boo-hoo! What's wrong, Zack Snyder? Oh, it's just that Star Wars is just so gosh darn shit! Is there anything that makes you happy? Zack Snyder likes moons! Well, there you go. Just make a movie with a moon. I don't know. Yeah, I'll do that.
35 on Metacritic.
It sucks because for everything Zack Snyder's done in his career that's been good, he still reminds us of his blunders, especially with movies like this. Not a fan of this one, definitely can't recommend it.
Break? What the hell? They just keep coming out. Oh, teddy bear!
All I needed to know that this movie was going to suck was this single still from the trailer.
Bruh.
There it is. By just the name, it probably wouldn't occur to you that this is the Jeff Wadlow who directed that hilariously bad horror fantasy island movie from 2020. But hey, he was probably just getting used to it. Give him another movie, whoops. Imaginary is simply put, a good concept with a botched execution. The idea of an imaginary friend killing you over abandonment issues oddly makes the other Imaginary Friends movie coming out this month questionable. Oh, you want to grow up? But the film itself just isn't scary enough, and it doesn't go far enough. It plays it completely and utterly safe. It's not good, simply put. Shut up! This happened, right? Yeah, in 2017 there was another Woody Woodpecker live-action animation hybrid film, and if I'm not mistaken, it was on Netflix. Regardless, this one is pretty alright, with all due respect given. To its credit, it's unfair to compare this to something like Godzilla x Kong or Dune 2, because this ain't supposed to be on that level. It's just a standard kids film, and if you got kids, they'll get a kick out of it. Otherwise, you won't get much, honestly.
Protect the briefcase!
We need to protect the briefcase.
This movie made me realize that they were called the Coen Brothers for a reason. Now, to be fair, the Coen Brothers splitting up in 2018 following the release of Ballad of Buster Scruggs due to them wanting to pursue their own projects hasn't been a total disaster. Joel went on to direct a critically acclaimed adaptation of Macbeth with Denzel Washington in 2021, alongside producing the FX Fargo show up to the end of the series just now. And as for Ethan,
Bruh.
well, Joel's doing good. Drive-Away Doll's biggest conflict comes with its lack of focus. It throws so much at you and doesn't focus well enough on developing any of it. This makes Drive-Away Dolls just an incredibly confusing and overly complicated experience that just doesn't seem to go anywhere. A highlight would be the main two actresses. I am surprised just how funny the both of them are. Even when a line isn't meant to be funny, their delivery just elevates it. The same could be said for legit anyone else in this movie. I don't know, the acting is really what puts this over Woody Woodpecker. Overall, I wasn't terribly impressed with Drive-Away Dolls. I guess it's hard to call it awful, it's just weak. Which sadly, for the legacy Joel and Ethan have lived to this point, weak is not good.
And the choir starts off like, like The Omen.
Okay, well, we almost had an Exorcist believer on our hands, guys. We're in the clear, ladies and gentlemen. It's just average. Just average. First Omen is nothing special, and I don't see myself talking about it any time after this video, but considering the mass production of shitty horror reboots, the First Omen really does the original okay. I wouldn't say it lives up to the original's legacy, and I will say it's pretty forgettable, but considering how god-awful the Exorcist believer was, average is an okay excuse for this movie.
Lose control, music make you lose control.
I'm starting to realize we're seeing a lot more of Rudy Mancuso recently. He got a start in the Vine era of the internet, but of course, once Vine shut down in 2017, like most of the big stars on there, he kind of fell off for a bit. Or worse, they ended up in a Logan Paul production. Get it? Because it looks like the plane is doing the cringy 2019 dance. But last year we saw Mancuso make a bit of a comeback in DC's The Flash. What a production to be involved in, right? Okay, but honestly, he was a highlight, despite not being in it much. He captured a really good nerdy essence. Something I personally think those shitty 2023 DC movies were missing. And you had goddamn Zachary Levi in your production. Well, now we have a movie directed by, written by, and starring Mancuso. And honestly, it's better than you probably think it is. It's way higher quality in terms of production compared to testicular torsion experience. And I'm just gonna say it, Mancuso's a good actor. He really knows how to play the part without going too goofy or over the top. Which, if you know Mancuso's earlier work, you know that's hard for him. Honestly, I really like this film. I'd say maybe if the music was more prominent, I do think it kind of takes a back seat to the characters, and it's not like these characters are bad, but I do wish the music was a bit more into it. For a direct-to-streaming film that didn't even need to try that hard, though, I was really impressed. I don't see myself talking about this movie in the top 10, but we can rest easy knowing it's definitely not in the bottom 10.
And one question only. Explosions!
Guy Ritchie is one of the most polarizing directors out there. When he goes all out, he makes some of the most unique and different films of all time. Snatch, The Gentleman, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. And when he flops, swept away, I don't know. He has his ups and downs like any good director, but his best movies reflect his greatest talents. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is definitely not one of his best, but it's fun, comedic enough, and has a great cast both with some familiar and some new faces. My biggest issue, and I know I shouldn't complain about what a film isn't more than what a film is, why wasn't this just a biopic or a documentary? Why was it an action movie? Sure, the explosions and the kick-ass fighting is cool, but I feel like a story like this, a story with very real people, like they show the people at the end of the movie. Why add the quips and the one-liners and the shitty writing, which is sadly a Guy Ritchie staple? I guess you can write it off as it's supposed to be a fictional take on it. Oh, well, at that point, just make a fictional war movie and base it off the mission in this movie. You know fictional war movies exist. I watched The Tomorrow War and I still don't know what it was about. The movie's good though. Very Guy Ritchie and an overall good experience that I really loved having. I haven't watched the Gentleman Netflix series yet, but if I end up enjoying that, this will be a very good year for Guy Ritchie. While I do want to see the story be taken a bit more seriously, for what we got, I enjoyed it.
Shadow, it's me, the devil.
Late Night with the Devil is a chilling and unique horror film that takes us to the set of Night Owls, a late night show that's airing its Halloween special. And from there, chaos. It's better to ask what doesn't happen in this movie rather than what does. As I've mentioned, there's always one horror movie that actually scares me every year. 2022 it was Smile, 2023 it was Talk to Me, and while I think it's a bit early to say for sure, I'm sure this movie will be the movie that gets me. And it's insane this is a found footage film, if you think about it. And I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna do it, Batman! I always liked David Dastmalchian. I liked him in the Suicide Squad. He was a redeeming factor in The Boogeyman. Directed by Rob Savage, by the way. And apparently he was in Oppenheimer. Okay, yeah, he was. Christ, everyone was in that movie. I mean, he's been around for a while, and it's nice to see this kind of revival in his career. Oh, wait, he was in Dune? Bruh. Oh, fuck you. I thought Austin Butler was Bill Skarsgård in that same makeup. I wouldn't have been able to tell. I know it sounds like I'm just trying to be different, but I indeed always liked this guy because he is possibly one of the greatest modern character actors. Think about his range. He played this creepy-ass TV show host, Polka Dot Man, William Borden. He played that guy in The Dark Knight. He played a white guy. The film is scary, and it's well made. Guess that's the end of it, right? This movie recently got into some pretty deep controversy over its use of AI-generated art in the background sets of the film. Of all the fucking things that could have come out about this movie, man. If you don't know, and I seriously doubt you don't if you don't watch my videos, AI and the use of it rather than hire the person to do that job was a huge driving point of the 2023 writers and actors strikes. Whether you agree with the strike's cause or, you know what, if you don't agree with the strike's cause, you are entitled to your opinion. I hope you have a great day, but I also don't like you. Okay, I'm gonna try to salvage this, but just know, I do understand the points of why these are wrong. The biggest one is that this movie was made before the strikes were a big thing. It was made in 2022, and it wouldn't start its festival run until 2023. Counter-argument, the film had plenty of time to hire a graphics editor or someone who could replace the AI art in between the film's last run at South by Southwest and the film's theater release. Such, while I'm sure this wasn't the director's intent, it can be written off as lazy. The other argument is how small and almost insignificant this is to the actual film. Counter-argument, it's still a job that was replaced by AI, so checkmate on that. Okay, so if you can forgive that, and I know there's a few people who won't even care, is this still a good movie? Absolutely. One of my favorite horror movies of the year. Yet again, Smile 2 and Terrifier 3 come out this year, so maybe let's put a pin here.
Monkey?
Taking home the bronze medal is Dev Patel's Monkey Man. I'm gonna say it. I hate most one-man army films. Outside of John Wick, I really can't stand the idea that fucking waves of soldiers, trained, armed soldiers, can be bodied by Liam Neeson. Like, I can't. John Wick was clever with it, and all the others just kind of ripped John Wick off. That's why, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't end up seeing Boy Kills World, because I feel like I would have just gotten that, a John Wick ripoff. Monkey Man is different, though yes, it borrows a bit from John Wick, even sometimes being called the Hindu John Wick. And man, I hate to repeat my stuff about David Dastmalchian, but I'm gonna say it, I always liked Dev Patel. Even in his lackluster movies, he manages to bring a certain charm and energy to it. Does anyone remember Slumdog Millionaire? Sure, he looked way fucking different there and not the badass he is today, but he had a nice charm to it, even in the films that weren't the greatest. And something this film does that a lot of those John Wick clones fail to do, it gives the main character a motive without just blurring it out. Something I'm sure that Boy Kills World bullshit does. Look, I'm sure it's an okay movie, but I refuse to support anything that has Brett Gelman in it. I don't like him at all, he's creepy. It gives us a moment to get a feel of Dev Patel's character while sprinkling in his past. The opening of this movie is absolutely incredible. It shows just enough to why Patel's character does what he does without just telling us. A similar thing was done with one of my favorite 2022 releases, Bullet Train. It shows each of the characters and their backgrounds and then shows how it all connects. Whereas in something like The Beekeeper, I haven't watched it, but it has Jason Statham in it. Are you really surprised? Monkey Man was a fantastic and interesting take on the one-man army genre that frankly makes it stand out. I gotta time travel real quick. Guy Ritchie is one of the most polarizing directors out there. But not as polarizing as Luca Guadagnino. The voices! Guadagnino is either a director who really does it for you, or he really doesn't. I love A Bigger Splash and Call Me By Your Name, but I also don't really care for Suspiria and that one weird-ass Bones and All, or whatever it was. So where does Challengers fit in with that lineup? It's my favorite movie from him. Talk about a smash hit that not everyone seems to like. I'll be honest, I haven't seen 2 Letterboxd reviews from my friends that have been the same. I've seen 4s, 3.5s, 2s. So yeah, like most of Guadagnino's work, it's polarizing, but just know this and number 1 alongside Dune 2 are the 3 movies that have gotten 4.5 stars for me this whole year. Challengers is actually a very messy film that makes sense towards the end. In one of my favorite scenes, it's a very simple scene, we see Josh O'Connor's character Patrick scrolling Tinder when a guy pops up, and you see he kind of hesitates, but ultimately swipes like he did on all the girls previously. It's little stuff like that that defines Guadagnino's well-done subtlety in filmmaking. And I'll say it, I'm impressed they were able to film tennis and I wasn't bored by it. Unless you're this or Happy Gilmore, tennis and golf have to be the only sports that are actually impossible to make interesting. Alright, what the fuck? I paid my tickets to this dumbass match. Where is Zendaya? I need Zendaya now. Where is she? I didn't sign up to see 2 grown men in short shorts hit balls at each other. I came for Zendaya. What's next? They're gonna kiss? Fuck, they actually did. Okay, yeah, and I kind of liked it. I love Guadagnino's work. It gives me so much material. But that aside, one of my favorites of the month and one of my favorites of the year so far. How fucking sad is it that we've had so many big budget productions, so many huge films of the year flop in Hollywood to the point where the closest competition Dune 2 has had since I watched it in February is a movie about hundreds of beavers were cooked. Truth be told, I wasn't planning this one for April, or at all. I was aware of its presence and its existence, and I simply didn't think I'd have time to watch it. Until a certain purple crab man just had to make a video about it.
Shoot them with a dehydration gun!
You're lucky you're funny, crab man, otherwise I'd hate you. Yeah, so naturally, after watching his video, admittedly, he does have a bit more history and background with the director and the production of this crew, I had to check it out. I couldn't let the shiny crab man beat me in the hundreds of beavers department. Sadly, he still will. But anyways, this is one of the single greatest comedies of the year, and probably the decade. It plays out like a mix of a classic Looney Tunes slapstick cartoon and the slapstick silent films of the Charlie Chaplin days. And it blends beautifully. This is the hardest I've laughed at a movie in a while. It was unique, funny, and had hundreds of beavers. They did not false advertise. There's hundreds of them. And I imagine this will be close to the top for quite a while. Well, it's April. Thank God I didn't watch Alex Garland's Civil War, otherwise I would have been worried for a sec. Whoa, what is going... Whoa. Ah, fuck!